Hi, my name is Dr. Brent Daigle from the Tift College of Education at Mercer University. Today we're going to discuss strategies for effective and successful co-teaching. Distributed leadership is the approach we should use when we're looking at a co-teaching model. One that uses integrative thinking, an environment where we have a collaboration of all of the stakeholders and the participants in this process, so that the teacher and the leaders and even the co-teaching situation itself is not viewed in a paradigm where one individual dictates how the parameters of co-teaching will be, but instead we all have a say and we all have a sense of agency in the co-teaching process. Nosler in 1991 examined the characteristics of a successful co-teaching experience, and 5 essential characteristics stood out, and that was a common vision, incentives, knowledge and skills, adequate resources, and an action plan. When all of these were in place, except for the common vision, so that's to say that there were incentives to do co-teaching, there were the skills for all the teachers involved, the resources were adequate, and there was an action plan to carry out co-teaching, but there was no common vision. We see confusion within this experience. And we must ask ourselves, what is the approach we're going to use for co-teaching? Scholars disagree on the definition of inclusive classroom experience, one that incorporates co-teaching into the experience of the classroom. Dr. Marilyn Friend has done a tremendous amount of work on the approaches and the framework and the different ways that we can carry out a successful co-teaching experience. But we have to ask ourselves, what is the interactions that I'm going to have as a teacher in this classroom? Who is going to lead the interactions? Is it going to be a collaborative experience? Is the approach going to be where I support the other teacher or that I have an active role in the classroom? Is there an opportunity for active learning? Is there peer engagement throughout the experience? Are all the needs of students met in the arrangement that we've agreed upon and the one that we've set up? Those with exceptionalities and those with accommodations and necessary modifications to their curriculum. When we examine these characteristics again, but this time we take out the incentive to do co-teaching so that the vision's there and the skills are there, we have the resources, and we even have an action plan, but we do not have the incentive to carry out co-teaching. We see resistance of the stakeholders involved, an unwillingness to participate in this experience. The buy-in is not there. The key stakeholders resist each other and the entire experience. The expectations are believed to be unrealistic. The entire experience isn't even trusted. The co-teaching itself is suspect when there's no incentive to carry this out. When we look at it from our own personal viewpoint, what is the advantage to me as an educator, as an advocate for my students, and to my students as their teacher? Frustration's there because there's no incentive to implement this into our practice. We examine these characteristics again, but this time let's assume that the skills from those who are leading the co-teaching is not there. That one or both of the teachers do not have the knowledge and skill set needed to successfully carry out this co-teaching arrangement. When this occurs, we see a lot of anxiety in it. To address the issue of skill set, we look at the instructional methods that are used in the classroom. What kind of communication skills are used both between the teachers and the students? Perhaps a shared planning time or more professional development could help build this two-way confidence in areas that one or both teachers feel that they have a lack of knowledge or a lack of skills in. We see a lot of frustration when everything is in place except for resources. That the skills are there, there's an incentive to co-teach, common and a shared vision, a plan is in place, but the resources are unavailable. Frustration abounds. It's important to guard against trying to do too much with limited resources, particularly when you consider the assignments we have as teachers. Clearly, our idea is to improve the academic, social, and behavior outcomes of all of our students in a classroom where co-teaching is occurring. So we use the resources that are available and we try to improve the outcomes of the students where we are. When everything's in place except for a plan to carry out co-teaching, we see what Nosler refers to as a treadmill effect. You feel like you're going and getting nowhere. So what's an action plan we should use to have a successful co-teaching arrangement? Well, one, we have to evaluate what is the format we're going to use. Again, it would be beneficial to take a look at the research carried out by Marilyn Friend in this area of inclusive education and co-teaching. to decide on what approach will you use that's going to maximize the outcomes for the students in the classroom and for all students. What approach would you use in the area of progress monitoring to demonstrate that the format you've chosen and the way you carry out co-teaching is working? Look at the subjects that are taught. What is the skill set of the teachers who are presenting these subjects? How do we evaluate our students? And just as importantly, how do we evaluate ourselves through this experience? What is the scheduling of students who are going to be in a co-taught classroom setting? What type of classroom is appropriate? When we look at the implementation of co-teaching, there's so many factors we have to consider. School factors, teacher factors, and the student factors. Ultimately, will this benefit our students? For there to be substantive change that is beneficial and helpful and improves the outcomes of all of our students, it is imperative that all 5 factors are present. That we have a shared vision, that we have an incentive to co-teach, that we have the skills that are in place from those who are leading the co-teaching experience. Adequate resources are there for the students to use and to benefit from. And then we have an action plan in place that clearly delineates the approach that we are going to use to carry out an inclusive educational approach and a co-teaching experience. In carrying out co-teaching, it's imperative that we articulate a common vision for the implementation of co-teaching, that we identify the incentives teachers, administrators, and students have for implementing a co-teaching experience. We should look at our own knowledge base and examine the current skill set that we have as teachers, those who are participating in the co-teaching classroom have before we implement this for our students. We should identify and allocate the necessary resources to make co-teaching a successful experience for all students. And finally, to avoid the feeling of a treadmill effect, teachers should develop an action plan that outlines the goals, objectives, and steps that are going to be followed throughout the year to improve the outcomes of all students who participate in this experience. I want to thank you for your time. Feel free to email me, Daigle_BA@mercer.edu. My name is Dr. Brent Daigle from the Tift College of Education at Mercer University. Goodbye.